Hello again. My name is Rabbi Sam Frankel, and I'm now going to be continuing the presentation on tefillah and mindfulness. As I mentioned to you on the last segment, the title that was chosen was Chazaras Hashatz, the repetition of Shemonah Esrei. Why do we repeat the Shemonah Esrei? Didn't Hashem hear us the first time? And the second level of this is how mindfulness affects prayer and how praying affects our minds, and how important that is in this generation more than ever. So firstly, what I would like to do is talk about the role of prayer in Judaism. It's not exclusive to us. In fact, I just saw today an Indian tribe, a black tribe, singing Shema Yisrael. Prayer is something that I think is inherent in human beings, but for us as Jews, I think it takes on a specific role. And it's discussed in the Gemara, and we know that it goes all the way back into the time of our Avot. Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov prayed. And the concept of prayer and the Karbanot and how all of that connects is where this notion of davening as an individual and davening as a tzibor comes in. And that's what this segment is going to be talking about. I mean, it's almost ironic how when I started talking about this, we were talking about doing a talk in Beth Aaron, and now because of this coronavirus, we're all of a sudden all being secluded to the point where we're not even allowed legally to be able to have minyanim. It was the saddest thing last Shabbos, and we're now about to spend the next Shabbos in seclusion. No Torah laning, people aren't saying Kaddish. It's really one of the saddest times, but I think it's in some way Hashem is giving us a message that we need to refocus. Give us time to be able to maybe better understand what davening is, so when we come back together as a tzibor, we have a different appreciation for it. Because I think sometimes the way it was before, it almost felt sometimes like the tefillah itself was a tircha de tzibor. Took too long, people were complaining about the person who's up there, I missed the bus, or I have to miss Musaf, what's the choice, what should I do? You should stay. Davening takes time, it takes thought. We need to be able to focus on it, and that's what my hope is that we'll be able to do when we put davening back into perspective. So for us, tefillah is something that's a part of the Jewish culture. It dates back to our avot. There are even women. We talk about Chana, we talk about Miriam. Davening and prayer is something that's inherent to the Jewish soul. But the notion of joining together and being able to do it in a tzibur, in a group, I think that's something that evolved and probably connected to the time of the temple, the Beit HaMikdash, which is where we all used to go during times of communal sacrifices, to bring individual sacrifices. And imagine what that must have been like, to be able to live in the time of the Beit HaMikdash and to be able to have to bring a sacrifice. Now, I couldn't do that on my own. I didn't have the training. I didn't have the lineage. I needed to give it to a Kohen who was, in a sense, my sholiach. He was acting on my behalf to take this animal that really should have been me because of the sin, and I'm standing there watching with sincerity, possibly crying. I'm not talking to any neighbors, I'm certainly not looking at my cell phone, but I'm sitting there focusing on what's about to happen to the animal that I just brought, which represents me. And this notion of having somebody else act on my behalf and being able to do things in a community, that's something that I think we need to bring back into our shuls. Because davening isn't something that we just act out. It's something that I hope we can reenact and we can reinvigorate with greater focus and thought, so that when we're in the process of davening the tzibur, it has a different meaning. Now, I mentioned before that I thanked Rabbi Rothwax and I thanked Alan Friedman, who not only gave material but also spent time with me talking about what I'm about to speak to you about. And I'm also going to mention Rabbi Dr. Fait, who spoke to me about something that the Rav said regarding individual and tzibur davening. Now, the concept is brought up in the Gemara, and we know that we talk about davening b'tzibor and why we have a sholiach tzibor. There's a whole notion of a period of time where there was some groups of people that were amei aretz, and they didn't have sidurim, and they relied on a sholiach tzibor, somebody else, to do the praying on their behalf because they weren't equipped to do it. But nowadays, we have more sidurim than we have people. There are more people in there that are educated and themselves are rabbanim. So the role of doing Chazaras Hashatz may seem like it's a little bit redundant now, but it's not. Because number one, when you just davened by yourself and said the Shemonah Esrei, and then there's somebody else, after you just said it, saying the same exact things, adding Kedusha, adding Modim, and a Modim D'Rabbanan that we say, and then adding Birchat Kohanim. But the very act of hearing over the same 19 brachot that I just said, that's confirmation. That's something that's powerful. But then what Rabbi Feit taught, Dr. Feit taught me, was that the Rav Soloveitchik, said that there's a difference between a yachid that's davening together with a congregation. That's called tefillah b'tzibur. And then you have what's called Tefilat HaTzibur. And that's being done by the Chazan, who's the Sholiach of the Tzibur. When he's doing it, he's not just like I was before, even though I say the davening in plural terms, but I'm an individual. I'm thinking about my cholim and my family and my parnasa. And yeah, I'm thinking hopefully on behalf of Am Yisrael too. But that's very different when the Sholiach Tzibur gets up there, because he's davening the tefillah of the tzibur. And when we go onto our cell phones, or we talk to somebody, or we take out a sefer, we're basically turning our back on the tzibur and on the Shekhinah. And that's what I'm hoping we don't do. When we come back to davening and we listen to Chazaras Hashatz, not only are we doing it because it's going to help our own minds focus, and in the end we're going to be the beneficiary, but the people who are in that tzibur, and the people who are in our communities, and the people in the world who are Chazan, the Sholiach Tzibur, he is davening on that behalf. That's where our minds need to be, focused on that. There's a machlokas in the Gemara between Rabbi Gamliel and the Chachamim about which is more, which is the Ikar. Is it the Yochid davening, or is it the Sholiach Tzibur? They're both important. We as a Yochid, we have to daven, and that's what we're doing right now by ourselves, and hopefully we're going to use the time to slow it down, to learn what we're saying. I can't tell you how surprised I am sometimes when I ask people about what the words mean. Take the time now. This is an opportunity to be able to learn tefillah, so that when we come back as a tzibur, hopefully we'll be able to appreciate it. We'll be able to come in expecting to spend the time and give the effort necessary and the focus necessary. Shabbat Shalom.